Let's switch gears now and talk about 2023 presidency and the expectations of many Nigerians. Well, many have started talking about the kind of president we need as we aim at the 2023 presidential election. Well, some people might say it's too early to be talking about that. But is it too early to plan? But if you are not satisfied with something, shouldn't you be planning early enough to fix it? And so a lot of people are already talking about what they want and how they want it. Some people are already talking about alternatives. Tonight, our attention or our focus is about creating some kind of a checklist and setting an agenda on the minds of Nigerians, on the criteria needed for Nigerians to decide on the type of leader they want or want to see. Tonight, I have Mr. Ladipo Johnson, a public affairs analyst here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson, for coming tonight. And from our Abuja studio is a lawyer, Mr. Daniel Buwala. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming.
Good evening, thank you.
So let's begin the conversation. From the South Pole to the North Pole, there are diverse opinions on what has become an unwritten rule in Nigeria, politically speaking. Oh, if you have 8 years, we should have 8 years. And some people say it is not even the best for us. What do you think, in your own opinion, is the best to deciding who should govern this country as a president?
Well, I think we need someone who can challenge the status quo. Someone who is an outlier, who's willing to ask the hard questions. Our federating relationship, insecurity, the economy, and many, many other issues. Someone who can put all those things in the front burner. A younger, more vibrant, more dynamic person. I think the country needs to consider all these things. We cannot continue to do things the way we've been doing them and expect to have a better country, a more egalitarian country. We can't. We have to be willing to change things, to ask ourselves the hard questions. And so I don't think at this stage that we should be talking about North and South or Christian or Muslim.
It's become somewhat a very strong written rule. Nobody is not in the Constitution.
It's because things are not working.
Yeah.
It's because things haven't been working. When things are not working, then you start to talk about how you share the national cake.
But the arrangement,
but
that understanding, you think has not worked?
It has kept the balance, as it were, because things are not where they ought to be. If things were working properly, efficiently, the Igbo man wouldn't care if the person ruling or governing is from Igbira, or is from the north, or is from Lagos. They wouldn't care because the atmosphere is there, his business is working, commerce is thriving. But because government hasn't worked or hasn't reached the optimum stage, we have people saying, okay, it's our turn. Okay, we're left out, and what have you. That is the problem. And that is why the younger generation in this country must get up, get involved, and make sure that the agenda for 2023 is properly set. And that
so you're clamoring for a younger,
more dynamic person.
A younger president, right?
Yes, not just the president, in in most of the other positions as well.
Why young people?
Well, because one, on average, law of averages, the younger person survives the older person, on average. An elderly person may not take the decisions that will be in the interests of a younger person's next 10, 20 years. His decisions may be short-term because he's living for the short term. You understand what I'm saying? A younger person is planning for today and for the next 10, 20 years.
Has any of the young people who are in office today impressed you so far?
Oh, yes. There are people, look, everyone has, they have question marks against their names. But you see, what is ahead in 2023, we have to look at what they've done, look at their scorecard, above all, and then say, yes, what is happening? You have people like, well, we have people in the House of Representatives. We have people, some in the Senate. We have some of the governors, especially we have a young governor as well. Okay, we have in Kogi State, we have Yaya Bello, who got involved with, for instance, the food crisis we were about to have. Now, I don't know much about him. That shows that this person is looking not just at his state, but beyond his state as well, and things like that.
So young is relative. So
it's relative, but young with capacity.
So if you look at
young
the president,
with capacity.
If you look at the president, what age would you suggest, for example?
It would depend on the people there.
Okay.
Some say young, not more than 50. You understand? Some say young 60 or what have you. I say
or
young.
75 as young at
No.
Let's bring Mr. Buala before we go to break. Mr. Buala, do you agree with Mr. Johnson on some of the checklists that he has ticked tonight for the next president of this country?
Yes, I do agree that the reason why people agitate for the younger generation of leaders to take over government is because associated with the youth is vibrancy, is flexibility, is creativity. And in fact, in Thomism, when a young man is thrust into power, there seems to be a reverberation of hope and optimism among the younger generation because it resonates. It sends a message that, look, there are possibilities in this country and I can achieve my dream, I can attain my aim. There was a time in this country, it was the younger people in the army that were led into the Second World War that began what we call nationalism. It was the younger generation of people that began the nationalism across the West Africa that led to the independence, to the point the colonial masters could look at this younger generation that were about to take the reins of a fresh country. They trusted them and entrusted powers to them. And they actually worked. Younger generation of people form both the parliamentary system of government and the presidential system of government. And you cannot argue that within this period, these younger leaders in government were able to do greater things. At what point did we miss it? That in fact, we no longer have confidence and trust in younger generation when you can in fact make a case that the present day young people are far better and more creative than the younger generation that led to the birth of Nigeria. But unfortunately, the older generation appear to have grasp of power. And the younger generation do not, up till now, it has not come to their realization that this power will not come by asking. It will come by you taking the powers. And there are many strategies to adopt. The most important thing among the young people is to look at competence.
Yeah, so I'll allow you to talk more on some of the issues that you have raised, specifically about the issue of capacity and how the fact that young people will not find themselves. They have to fight for it. But I'll allow you to dwell more on that after this short break, everyone. Don't go anywhere. We're still talking about a checklist for those who will be leading Nigeria in the next round of elections. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Thank you, everyone, for staying with us. You perhaps at some point maybe tweeted or sent a WhatsApp message or read something about 2023 presidency. A lot of people are saying, look, maybe it's too early for us to talk about it. At some other conversation, have it that we need to start talking about it so that we can get a hold on the kind of leadership that we want. And so that's where we're giving you that opportunity to hear and see what Nigerians are talking about. Ladipo Johnson, a public affairs analyst, and Daniel Buala, both gentlemen are talking to us, giving us experience and knowledge of their thoughts on how and ways we need to go in 2023. Let's go to our Abuja studio with Mr. Buala. Young and capacity, that is one thing. Mr. Johnson spoke about the zoning arrangement. Has it worked? Has it not worked, Mr. Buala?
Well, you see, people talk about this zoning arrangement and some people try to throw it up as if because it is in an unwritten code, it does not apply. If you look at the Constitution says the composition of the government of the Federation must be run in such a way that it will reflect the principles of federal character. And when you compose a government, you start with the president, the vice president, and you come down to the last person in the civil service. And so if the president continued to come from one part of the country, without prejudice to the fact that other parts of the country are covered in other positions, it does not fulfill the mandatory requirement as provided in the Constitution. That is number one. Number two, when people talk about the zoning power, power move here, power move there, for the time immemorial, power has been moving only between two geopolitical zones in this country, between the northwest and the southwest. Whenever power goes to the south, it doesn't go to the southeast, it doesn't go to the south-south. Whenever power goes to the north, it doesn't go to the north-central, it doesn't go to the northeast. But because it is zoned, it is broken in such a way that they say power moves to the north, then go and fight for it. Power moves to the south, go and fight for it. Two advantageous regions have dominated the space. And so where do you start in the argument? Do you make the case from geopolitical zones, or you make the case from this broken region into south and north? There is inequality in all of these places. Even if you look at the composition of government in terms of appointment and possibilities and opportunities, it still moves within these two regions, dominantly above and over other regions of the country. They will tell you that in democracy, it is a game of numbers. So if they produce the numbers, when they bring government to bear, the government will have to factor them. But when we talk about leadership amongst the young people, are we merely asking it for the age, or we're asking it for the competence? The reason why emphasis is placed on the age is because this younger generation of people are mobile. They are moving. The same set of people that could not get councillorship in Nigeria have found themselves as congressmen, mayors, governors, and parliamentary members in countries where the nuclear code is the most important thing. But you come back to Nigeria, a country of less than $1 trillion, in terms of whatever we have, they don't trust the younger generation. You find political party playing lip service whenever election cycle comes close, and they talk about, we believe in the youth, we believe in the youth, all kinds of announcement and advert you see. But in actual fact, do they believe in the youth?
But Mr.
Then
Bwala,
the greatest culprit of all is the media, the members of the press. I'm sorry, Sheun, you are trying your best by covering for the youth. But
okay,
good, the press have not given the right coverage for the younger generation of, you are trying your best, that's what I'm saying, to stay on them. One or two occasions they talk about youth, and then we all go back to the old. But the younger generation, these guys in flutterwave, this guys in pay stack, these guys entrepreneurs, these guys in politics, has there been emphasis? Are you covering them to look at what they are doing? Are you profiling them? Because by doing so, you will guide the country. The media will guide the country away from the old to the new generation. Because no matter your capacity, if you are not covered, nobody will know you.
Trust me, we're setting an agenda on the kind of leadership, because we believe here at Channels Television that if we get leadership right, we probably have gotten a lot of percentage right in some of the issue in the polity. And that's why we're setting the agenda in the taste and the value and the style of the kind of people we need to see in power. But quickly, let me get to your view. Joe Biden, the 46th president of the United States, is 78 years old. People will ask you, experience is needed at that level of leadership. Do we need, or, I mean, Mr. Johnson was saying 50 years, a benchmark for young people that he's talking about. What's your own benchmark? Can we allow a younger person with less experience to be at that level of leadership in this country?
My benchmark is not far from what the Constitution set out as the benchmark. That is the benchmark for the age that will qualify you for run for the presidency of the country. And the Constitution is not foolish about it. When you mention Joe Biden, he didn't win the presidency of America because they lost confidence in the younger man. Remember, Barack Obama he was just one-term congressman senator, and from there, he didn't go for governorship directly. He won the party primaries, he won the election, and became the president of the United States and governed for 8 years. You want to go to Canada? Do you want to go to France? Do you want to come down to England? These are countries of codes, nuclear codes. These are countries that are in the first world of power. How did the younger people navigate it? Because the system was not rigged. Our system is rigged against the younger people. Whichever way you turn. That's why the NSAS movement that happened the other time, the positive that we can draw from the NSAS movement is that if they can channel this energy into a political party, Believe me, 2023 will speak volumes. But as long as the younger generation of people continue to hide under the umbrella of one rich politician who brandish the idea of youth but does not even believe in that project or does not even have the competence, the younger generation that will win presidency in Nigeria must believe in vision, must believe in leadership, must believe in education, must believe in science, must believe in unity, must believe in cohesion, must believe in enthusiasm. The criminal activities across Nigeria, banditry and the rest, is because the younger people have lost hope in governance. That's all.
So let me bring back Mr. Johnson. Mr. Johnson, you heard what he said. He said the system has been rigged against the young person. So how can that young man or young woman who aspire to the highest office in the land get his head above the water to swim across to the shore to becoming what he or she aims to become?
Well, we look at the young ones as a whole. If you look at the register, the INEC register, from the age of 18 to 35 years, they form 51% of the voters register. From the age of 36 to the age of 50, they form 29%. So that shows you that if they move en masse and the agenda is set, and so it's not too early. If they move en masse, then concrete decisions and concrete achievements could be made in this regard.
Well, I mean, so now the big question is, you've given all this data and these statistics.
Yes.
How do they go about it? How do they move? What can happen? I mean, is it an alternative, or some of the political parties must be forced or to somehow lobbied to ensure that this criteria or this checklist is implemented?
We're even fortunate that you have so many political parties, and you can have as many as you want. But even with the existing major parties, there's nothing that stops young ones from coming together. And they won't all go the same way, because we're not just talking about youth for the sake of youth. Some will be right of center, some will be left of center, some will believe in the policies of the PDP, some will believe in the policies of the APC. Some will believe in supporting existing people who are already in government at one level or the other. But what we are saying is that, and you see, yes, I said that some say 50 and below, but I just say that it's not just the age, but as time goes by, we have to continue to talk about competence. We have to talk about someone who can unify the country, someone who can bring all sorts of things to the table.
So for those who are saying Southeast should be given, you think that you should jettison that, and let's say, or what do you say?
I'm not saying that you should jettison that. In everything, we must balance. Like the example of Joe Biden. Joe Biden came in to correct an existing thing. Obama came in during his own time. JFK came in during his own time. Gowon was there, maybe at the age of 20-something. Obasanjo finished his first stint as head of state, probably at the age of 30-something. Nigeria did not break. Nigeria did not fall.
So should we still follow the zoning but have a young person? Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that we can have a young person, and if you have the square peg, square hole, then you look at the zoning.
All right.
If not, but we have to make sure that whatever we do, whether zoning, whether rotation, it must be a competent person and a person that can lead us properly in the 21st century.
All right, let me get Mr. Boala's thoughts, and which will be a final one on some of the comments you heard Mr. Johnson say. Where do we go from here? You are the one who said the system has been rigged. So how can a young person get into the scheme of things?
The young person can, there are two ways. One, by a revolution through political process. And number two, by a sitting president making a determination that he will make that as his last legacy. When John Obasanjo was leaving, you remember, he ensured that he chose from among the younger governors who will become. So if that political will is there on the part of Mr. President, he can cause the emergence of a young man in APC. Then as per whether power should go to the south or to the north, you see, you will not be fair to the northeast or north central or southeast or south-south to brandish this out, because you know that anywhere you move it, the bigger ones, the big boys, will seize it. But these are basically the two ways: through revolution by a movement of people, not occupying street and terrorizing government, but forming a political movement and begin to canvass the takeover, or by a president determining that in his party, he will ensure that a younger person emerge. Without these two, you will find out that when the election cycle comes, we will still go around these politicians. They will make all the noise in the world. We will talk all the talk in the talk, and then we'll go back to square one.
Sincerely, it's a conversation I think will birth more conversations around the kind of people we need in public political office. If private people are doing well, government and public officers must do well, and it will happen in our time. Thank you so much, Mr. Ladipo Johnson, for coming tonight, and Mr. Daniel Bwala. Thank you indeed for your time tonight. What a day is it? A day.
And a happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's our show today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'm sure Akim Ale. Have a splendid evening.